Hello.
Good morning.
Everything seems to be working.
Good.
Yeah, that's always good.
That's good. Yeah. Not bad.
Not bad. It is warm here today.
Yeah, it's blazing hot here too.
You know what though? It's actually not as bad as what some of the rest of the country's dealing with.
No. Yeah. It's unreal. I mean, you're looking at what's happening all over the place. Like,
Yep.
wow. Weird stuff too.
Boise's got I looked at their weather. The next 7 days are all 100-degree plus.
Oh yeah. Yep. It's pretty common for us.
Yeah.
It's warm. It's a drive in the car.
Yeah. I'll tell that to Sydney.
Yeah, our friends out east, they don't really care if it's a dry heater. They'd kind of prefer the moist heat, you know.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, we'll get a few people on here. Let's see. Everybody's sleeping.
Yeah. Get the keyboard out. Yeah, shirt design I sent you.
What was that?
See that shirt design I sent you, or my idea for a polisher shirt with the flag.
Yeah,
Pretty cool, huh?
that would be cool.
Yeah. They got a shirt on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get this shared.
Well, good morning. What's up, Chris?
Good morning. We that background might be a little busy today.
What's one?
The one I got the planes in the background. I guess it could work.
Okay. Gotcha. See, I can't see that from here. Oh, I see it. Yep, I got it. Yeah, it didn't look bad. So I didn't even notice. So, yeah,
Well, we can leave it for now.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah, I like it. So, well,
Switch us around there.
the last few weeks have been actually the last several months have been insane. But the last few weeks were really preparatory for going up to Seattle, up to Boeing Field, up to the Museum of Flight in Seattle.
Yeah, that's been that was especially busy for us and for me.
Yeah.
So that there's been a lot of focus on that for at least the past month or two.
Yeah.
So
So we're gonna dive in and just share some stuff. Learning from amazing people. I took away so much last week. People have been around a lot. We had 10 rookies up there that had never gone to the project before. That means there's 20 of us that had been. It's a much smaller team. COVID kind of changed things, and we're readjusting. It's been a big adjustment because we, last year the expectations were what they were. COVID had hit. Everybody's kind of trying to figure out. They wanted a really small team. We actually had 19 last year. And then this year, the expectations were much higher, but a much, much smaller team. And so the pressure was kind of on. And just, my job changed. I was just roving a lot. We got a lot of press. We got a lot of calls for press. But it was really cool. But the people factor of it was unbelievable. But we want to talk about it because we get a lot of questions on doing these projects and what it takes, and should people be doing projects of their own. The answer is absolutely yes, but you got to be prepared. So hopefully this gives you some ideas, whether you're doing a really big project like this or just something that's big to you. It could be one plane or one specialty car or a couple of museum pieces, whatever it may be. But we want to kind of get it out there and share, and also get some facts out there that people ask about. So they're kind of fun. But we have a cool shirt design that we had an artist do that. Chris dug up an artist that did a fantastic job. We had so many people in the industry back this up in a big way. And it was an amazing project. It was an amazing time, and it was amazing learning curve for us going from, 50 or 60 people down to 20, but still having that high expectation, of everybody around us. So we'll get in and start talking about it and talk about the people that are involved and the companies that were involved and all that good stuff. So did you rest up yet?
It's going to take a little time. I think it's like having jet lag. It's just going to take a little while to catch up.
Yeah.
But I still have I've been trying to prioritize stuff, so I still have a whole inbox full of stuff to go through and everything else and get caught up. And
oh yeah.
So if you're on this and you're waiting for something from me, be a little patient.
Yeah, we'll get it to you. We'll get it to you. It was cool. But before we start, let's again, last week, I just learned from so many people. And I tell the guys, the guys and gals, that it's like herding angry cats, because entrepreneurs, there are all these A types, and usually, entrepreneurs don't come, and work with other people, but it's really back to our statement of learning to follow. And there's so many great leaders in that group that followed. And I think what it does is a lot of people just don't get it. And mainly it's people that don't have followership, that they lead themselves and that's it. But when you step back and you have to follow, it does build you up to become a better leader. And some people would disagree with me, but we've seen it firsthand over the years. I see it in my endeavors away from the industry. And it humbles you. And when you can be humbled, it just, I think, gives you a good opportunity to grow and grow the people around you. And so, and again, this year was a challenge for Doug, as the project manager, a challenge for Bobby, a challenge for you, a challenge for Diane, definitely a challenge for me, because, we had so much expectation on our shoulders. And so, this thing's worth it. Just, our insurance company goes out every year or every couple of years, tries to get a dollar value on it. And, they use auction house, Christie's, different things. And like items that have, been sold. And they try to put a, a dollar amount to it, but we're talking over 300 million. And that
Yeah.
spooks a lot of people. Now, the chances of us, the thing that we're going to do is poke a hole in something, is we're going to dent something, it's not going, we're going to destroy it. But in all these years, we haven't. But, the risk factor for the insurance companies is pretty real, to the point that they want to FaceTime with me, see what's going on, see how we operate the project and all that, because it is of such great value. Going all the way back, this started in 1999 with my buddy Dave Morris. I met Dave Morris actually in 97, but in 99, him and I started talking detailing. I was involved in another business that I had partnerships with. It looked that partnership was going bad real quick. A lot of things went down, and by 99, we were in an odd spot. And I told Dave Morris, he was a pilot, and flew for a family. He was their personal assistant, their bodyguard. I mean, he did a lot for this family. Very, very well known, well to do family, and they had some aircraft. And when I told him my plans for detailing, literally that next day, I started working, and Dave just kept introducing me to new people. And then just being around that, I started out just doing aircraft at that point and was moving into cars. That was the plan. But at that point, it was just aircraft. And at that point, it put me into circles. I started, meeting other people. And in 2001, early 2000, late 2000, early 2001, I met Joe Clark. And Joe Clark, if you guys want to, see something pretty cool, Aviation Partners, they were the first to put winglets on the end of wings of airplanes, and Joe was an innovator of that. Was heavily involved with Boeing naturally. Introduced me to Clay Lacey, another big name in the industry. Go look him up, and all this networking kept growing and blossoming. And not only was our business growing, but our reputation, which is, I think, even more important within key circles, was really, it was, I would call it on fire. We were just meeting the right people, and it all started back with Dave Morris, a good friend. And Chris, I'm still in contact with Dave. We went and Carlos with Uber Detail and I went and had dinner with him when we were up in Idaho.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So he's a great friend. We've watched our kids grow together, and he's just a great guy. So in 2002, I'd done a lot of work with Joe Clark. Excuse me, I had a tickle in my throat, and it was growing. I mean, he introduced me to friends. I was working with aviation. Shell Aviation. I was traveling. Starting in 2000, I started a relationship with Aeroshell. That was blowing things up. I was speaking at Oshkosh and all kinds of events. We printed out a air care guide. We came up with a product line. Things were really moving, and I got a call from Joe November 2002, and he goes, "Hey man, I'm going to take and send a plane down, pick you up. Can you come up here to Boeing? I've got something to look at." I said, "Sure." And it was the week of Thanksgiving. That was on a Monday, and on Tuesday, I was there. On Wednesday, I did the test spots, and on Wednesday afternoon, I flew back to Sun Valley, Idaho, where we lived at the time. And the plane, it was cool. It wasn't raining, thank God. Air Force One. This is the one that Eisenhower and Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, all the way through. Ford, Carter, the whole bit. Pretty important plane, and a lot of history to it. And it was owned by the Air Force, so the Air Force had representatives there. Boeing had representatives there. The museum had representatives there. They had tried to get this aluminum to come back and the paint to come back. They really wanted to salvage it because the aluminum was the original that was exposed from day one. The paint was done back in the 70s, and there's patina. They want to keep the patina, but they want it to look majestic like Air Force One. So I picked two areas and I went to work, and literally all eyes were on me. They gave me a couple hours, so I did a really small test spot on engine number 3, and I had to think about it. And we sanded it down. I took a wheel to it back then. Then we took rotary, and then we took wheel to it, and then we took a drum buffer, and this is like a 1x1 area, and it came out really nice. It came out to about 80% of what it is today, and we've worked on it a lot since then. So, this was 20 years ago when we did the test spot, almost 20 years ago. Then they wanted to see a big sloth on the side. They wanted to see a huge quilt size area to see how it looked that way. Now that one, I didn't have to go through quite the levels, but we did have to have sand a few spots. We're really worried about the cladding being affected. This is a cladded aluminum. They did some tests after I was done, very minimal removal of the cladding, which was really, really good. And again, we got to about 80% of what it is today. And that was it. I was surprised. I'd never done that large. I was doing a lot of leading edges. And so, they were pretty impressed, but the Boeing polishers didn't think we could do it to the entire airplane. They just said, there's no way you're going to be able to match it up. It's just going to look like a quilt. They didn't believe in me. And Joe Clark just kept saying, hey, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. So, by 2003, we really hadn't heard anything. We worked with them. We gave them our assurance. We gave them a proposal. It was over, I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but it was right at $250,000, to do the work. And finally, in April of 2003, we heard from them. And in June of 2003, we went up and did it for the first time. And that was 19 years ago. And we did it with 7 people, 3 of which were volunteers. One of it was Evan, helped us out, a lot, which, Evan still added up there, an incredible man. And we were there for 2 weeks, and it was incredibly difficult. Probably the most, out of my entire career, the most physically difficult 2 weeks of my entire career. I mean, probably those 2 weeks were probably more difficult than the other 50 weeks combined that year. I mean, it was really tough. When we were done, it turned out surprising and had a lot of challenges. It was on display in an awkward area. It wasn't on even ground. We couldn't get lifts to work perfectly. We had one boom to work with. I mean, it was just, we had, a generator problem for the drum polishers. I mean, nothing went perfect. And it was a lot of work. But what that did is really blossomed in to an opportunity. I really thought, we'll bring it up to speed. We're going to try to sell them on maintaining it. But, it's the Air Force, it's the DOD, it's the museum. They're probably not going to spend the money. And so shockingly, when they saw the results, they asked me if I could get it even better. And I said, yeah. The good thing was they were going to cover all that aluminum up with paint because they just didn't like the way it looked. And they're going to repaint the plane and lose that paint scheme that was done back during the Jimmy Carter era. And so we were able to save, and it's still the same paint. We've done some touch up to it. But other than that, it's the same paint. So it lasted, 15 years longer than what they thought, and it's still going. Touch-up spots will be needed, but really I can't see them repainting that plane during my lifetime. I mean, it's not going to happen because it looks so good. And so the circles it brought me into was unreal. I mean, it just brought me into a whole nother level. And for every person that's got a corporate jet, they've got a garage full of cars. And it changed my business, being known. We had to fight for the title of Detailer of Air Force One, detailing team of Air Force One. All that stuff was a fight to get, and we fought it. It was incredible. We started out with 7. The next year, I think we went up, and I brought some people from one of my other offices. I think we're up to 10. By 2008, we were up to about 17, and it was starting to look really good. I mean, like almost factory new. That first year, the pilot that flew it out of Boeing was there. He couldn't believe it. Now, I think he's since passed away. Is that the last time I saw him with it, he was like just blown away. He goes, it looks better than it did. I think he flew it out of the first time in early 1959. He was just blown away. But it's a lot more than just Air Force One. The 20 team members, all of us are volunteers. I think this year's going to be the first year that we actually break even for us. meaning that detailing success, and Diane, Chris, and I, is that this is going to be the first time we don't put a pretty good chunk of money into it, that we're going to take, naturally, our costs and everything else. Hopefully we break even and make a few bucks. We do teach the team how to get donations in the local market. Several people did get donations and made some money off of it this year. But we're all volunteers, major supporters from the industry. I'm blown away that this year at the amount of people. And Chris, do you want to go through that list real quick?
Yeah, in fact, but before we touch on that, I want to back up just a tad. One of the questions that I get a lot is, how do you get on that team?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it didn't originally start off this way, obviously, because this project goes back to be right just before the creation of the Detail Mafia. But the team members are selected from the Detail Mafia, from that network group. So everybody on that project is a member of that group. And then in order to become a member of that group, you have to attend Renny's 5-day training. So that's a prerequisite for being a member of the Detail Mafia. So that's kind of how all this gets started for current members, but it wasn't always the case. It just kind of evolved into that over time. But so that's kind of the bottom line with how people eventually get on this project. But it doesn't happen right away either. People come through training, they join the Detail Mafia. Usually it takes a couple of years before they might get an invite to this project. So it's not, it's not immediate, and it all kind of, goes back to how active they are with our group, how they participate with our group. Are they, not only making withdrawals, like you like to say, but making deposits into our group as well, that kind of thing. So, I just thought it was important to step back and look at that.
Absolutely. We even want people to be making deposits into the general population of the industry, into their community. And so really, I think our leadership in the Mafia had a great idea this trip is next year. They want to get more active in the selection process. It's a really tough time because, there's 180 members in the group, and to choose 30 is incredible. We've had a lot more positions in the past. We've had media people and so forth. This year we couldn't. We stumbled a little bit with that, because we got trimmed down, But I think our leadership came up with a great idea to where next year it's an application process, that the members put an application. That way we know they want to go, and we'll say, hey, here's what the prerequisites are. Here's the application. And that way we can look at it and we know the people really want to be there. And so many people have gotten, I've got an interview with I don't know if it's a TV station or a radio station or a newspaper for one of the team members today. And so, a lot of people got in the press, a lot of people got, write-ups and so forth. There's a lot of marketing you do with this. I still hand my business card out that's got my picture on the wing of Air Force One, and it blows people away. And I've been 19 years, that I've been doing it. So it's unreal. And so it is, the selection process is we had a lot of people from just, outside the industry, sending messages over. I don't know if you saw any of them, Chris, but hey, how do I become part of that team? And, the nice thing about doing it the way we do is it's vetted. It's not that we'd love to bring the whole industry with us. But, we know these individuals, we know that everybody's at a certain level or above. And that's really important because we've got 6 days, and we'll go down through and we're going to show you what the aircraft are that we worked on and kind of tell you what we did to each one of them. It's more than just one aircraft. Mainly it's that the Air Force One, the 707, and a B-29 bomber, one of, a handful maybe left in the world. There's only a couple flying. They hope to get a third one up soon. This one will never fly. They're going to keep it as a museum piece because there's just not enough examples in the world, and they just don't want to risk it going down. They lost one a number of years ago that was flyable, that was on its maiden flight since it had crash landed, and it caught fire and was destroyed. They don't want that to happen because there's just not many left for people to be able to see. So, Chris, You want to go through this list?
Yeah, so so the volunteer team members are probably the most important part of this project, right? Without them, without their donated labor, this couldn't happen. But the other thing, and I'm gonna pull this up real quick. Um, the other thing that makes this project happen is our sponsors. And man, we had a huge number of sponsors step up this year. Um, Incredibly generous, excited to be part of it, and I think it just shows um, the impact the project has had on the industry, but how the industry has embraced doing projects like this in order to help lift up the entire industry. You know, so pretty much what you're looking at here on the screen, if you guys are got video, is that's the artwork for the shirt, but there's also all the logos for the sponsors, and I'm just going to run through them real quick. Of course, PNS Double Black is one of our main sponsors, or is our main sponsor. And then in addition to them, we have Flex Power Tools. We've been using their tools on the project for years. Buff and Shine, we've been using their pads on the project for years. The Rag Company, same thing. They've been sponsors for years. We've been using all their towels on the project. I think we estimate about 4,000 towels each year we go through. IK Sprayers, they've been a sponsor now for a few years, and we use the sprayers on the project to apply the various cleaners that we use. Plus, we protect the planes with Bead Maker because Bead Maker is Boeing approved, and the IK sprayers are a great way to get that applied to the big surfaces of the plane. Rod and Jody at Road FS, they've been sponsors and involved in this project for many years now, and it's been a couple of years since they were actually able to work on the project, but they've even spent time out there working on the planes with us. That's how involved they've gotten in the past. Grit Guard, they've been a long-time sponsor. Of course, it's the way that we clean all those Buff and Shine pads. Angel Wax was a brand new sponsor this year, so they came in to help, and they came out to visit us during the project. Dynabraid, this is their second year sponsoring the project with us, and they're kind of inching their way into the automotive detailing space, and they've got some cool things they're working on for the future. Autofiber, so Ian Ramelkamp at Autofiber, he sponsored the project for the first time this year, which was really cool. And then Ragtop has been a sponsor before, over at the guys over at Wolfstein's. Auto Geek stepped up to be a sponsor this year. IGL Coatings stepped up their sponsorship again this year. They've been a meal sponsor in the past, and this year they became a more serious sponsor. Dr. Color Chip, and then same with Your Able. Your Able's been a meal sponsor in the past, and they stepped up with a major sponsorship this year as well. So it's quite a list of some killer companies in the industry that see the value in this.
Yeah, it was, it's incredible to think about it. And you guys are going to see, we're starting a lot of new efforts here in the coming weeks. And that's why I was just looking down and it's got a text in reference to it. But a lot with these product partners, we go back, most of these companies, years, some decades. I mean, Road FS, Jody and Rod, I've been working on their software system since we had our offices in Idaho. And so that's 20 years. It's unreal. Naturally PNS being, really involved. I mean, just I can go through each one of these, and it's just so special to see them, jump in and support us this way, because it just makes it so much easier to make things really, really nice for the volunteers that come out, for all of us that come out and work on this. And not only for that, but also for the museum staff and their volunteers. I mean, we had two of their volunteers, and Evan, the display curator, they're with us almost every minute of the day from start to finish. And we are getting there at, a little 7 o'clock every morning, and sometimes not leaving until close to 7 at night, So, I mean, it makes a huge difference being able to treat people we didn't have this option, definitely when we started it 19 years ago, we didn't. But, even 5, 6, 7 years ago, it just, the industry's really grown, and I'm proud of them. Meals, detailers, we can eat, and we're big eaters. And so, Diane and I worked out as part of our deal. We could churn this profit, and we could get volunteers up. But Diane and I, a lot of people don't realize, is that we take the money that the museum would normally give us, and we turned it into flights that the museum pays for leadership, hotel rooms, double occupancy for how many rooms do we have this year? We had 20 people in rooms.
We had 8 rooms, so roughly, covered it for about half the team.
Yeah, about half the team has got rooms covered. We covered their breakfast, we covered their lunch, we covered their dinners. It was funner than heck. But lunches, we had so many great people, detailers, helper. I mean, it's Kevin and Michelle have been involved. I mean, oh God, I'm thinking all the way back to 2010, 11, something like that.
As long as I can remember.
Yeah, like a dozen years. William, which was just texting me right now, Miami Lux Detail Supply. I mean, here's a detailer helping detailers. Kimball's. I mean, the Kimball's hands-on detail. Joe Kimball and his kids.
Yep.
They fed us. Barry with SB3 again. A detailer that turned into a product manufacturer. Detail Plus, Keith again. Somebody coming out of the industry. Jim's Auto Installations Detail Center. Jim Gogan. I mean, he bought us lunch. I mean, how cool is that? And you're talking 20. I mean, really 25, 26 people. And so, I mean, it's incredible. Dinner, you're able, stepped up, bought us dinner. Uber Detail, Carlos and Uni. Again, it's unreal. I mean, people in the trenches of detailing. Wheel Woolies. I mean, just a great company. Kimball's Hand-On Detailing, again, came out and joined us and bought us dinner. And Glass Parency jumped in and bought us dinner. And it's unreal of what they did. And then we had some special sponsors actually go above and beyond that. So, Chris, why don't you talk about what some of the people did for us?
Well, you were talking about Kevin and Michelle Davis. One of the other cool things they've always done is they provide brand new detailers helper belts for all our rookies on the team. So every year, before the project starts, they come to me and they're like, "Okay, Chris, how many rookies are on the team this year?" And so we had, I think, 11 or 12. I think it was exactly 11 this year. And so they shipped out 11 brand new belts, and those team members all got to use them and wear them during the project. And, we actually rely on those pretty heavily anyways. It's hit or miss sometimes whether you use one on a car, depending if you're in your shop and stuff like that. But when you're working on an airplane, you definitely want to have one of those things. So, and then we've got some other, fun characters in the industry that do some things for us. This is the third year that a guy in New Mexico, George L. Chingon, I hope I pronounced that right, but he's provided jerky for the team. He ships out a couple big boxes of beef jerky, and the team loves it because it gives them a nice little protein snack during the day. So he's kind of become our official jerky supplier of the team. And this year, Tom Smith at Buff Bright did something really cool, and I'm gonna bring up a picture of one in a second. But he provided, he's been making these skins that stick on your polisher, so you can kind of customize them. And let me see if I can grab one real quick. But anyway, so he sent out a skin for the entire team. And the guys were a little afraid to put them on their polishers at the project.
Yep, they didn't mess them up.
Because they didn't want to mess them up. But I've been starting to get pictures from them once they got home. So here's one that Chris Williams sent me. And, gives you a little bit of idea. But on the sides, the Mafia logo and the Buff and Shine Reflection Artist logo. And he's got the Air Force One logo on there and the double black logo. So it's pretty cool, the little things that people have been doing for this project for us.
No, that was really, I'm going to take it. And first off, I mean, detailers helper belts. I mean, if you're working on a large SUV, if you're working on a boat, an RV, airplane, I use them on all kinds of stuff around the shop. I mean, it's funny because we'll have people at training and they'll be kind of reluctant to put them on its belt. Then when they start wearing them, like, holy crud, it just makes things easier, you know?
Yep.
George, dude, that jerky's unreal. I don't even know if you know this, Chris, but I had to forfeit mine. A couple of the guys had eaten theirs, and I had a bag that I was going to sneak home, and I felt bad because I heard him talking about it, so I forfeited mine and gave it up. But it's on. I did get a piece or two, but it's unreal. I mean, for George to step up like that, just unreal. And then again, you know, the skins were I mean, I can't wait to get mine on. You know, pretty cool. But you know, one thing that we decided to do this year is we always have. You know, I think I gained 5 pounds. I'm serious. I'm still full of sodium from up there. You know, God, I feel like I'm just puffed up beyond. But you know, every morning we've had donuts in the past, but we found a new place, really, really good donuts. And we'd have the sponsors and myself, we'd walk around the project and do donut delivery to the teams. Something so simple was so appreciated. And guys that weren't even eating donuts were eating donuts because they were so good. The patio talks, we have patio talks at night. We used to, we're going to change that back up and go back to the way we used to it and have pre-arranged chats. It just got ahead of us. And again, such a small team, we're just adjusting. But God, there's some nuggets, some notes that I put out that I wrote down. They're just unbelievable. A lot of opportunities. Here's where it comes really interesting. The people, you know, not only our team, because we know each other, you know, we know everybody on there, but not everybody knows each other. So for them to get to know each other was really cool. But the people that we got to know firsthand while there, Evan, you know, with the Museum of Flight, unbelievable. He worked hand in hand with us. Marlene, her husband, was a B-29 engineer and was on the island and was briefed right after Captain Tibbetts was briefed, the pilot that flew the Enola Gay on that awful day. He was there, and so her dedication to the B-29 is endless. And you know, she's a big part of making sure we get up there every year. And she's in her 90s and the sweetest thing. And she brings us cupcakes. And we presented her with the team flag last year. She presented it back to our daughter Ryan, which her and Ryan's known her for 10 years. And so since she was 17, and Marlene, I get to give it to my daughter, present it to my daughter when I see her next. Dick, oh my God, he was a B-17 pilot, flew 35 missions over Germany. This was the third year that we got to meet him. He's 99 and a half years old, and he makes sure to tell you the half. He's incredibly sharp. I'm going to be putting some videos up of him. Every year that we're with him, we get new nuggets, and this year was no different. Talking to Dick, Fred, the volunteer at the museum, incredible guy. I mean, we had multiple incredible volunteers. Fred and I just really bonded. Pilots that come by and talk with us, the pilots that flew some of these planes. You know, we've naturally got Dick, but we've got other people that flew the B-29, Air Force One's pilot, people that flew B-52 bombers. I mean, just it's the stories, the history, the knowledge, the passion, the heroics, the sadness, some of the sad stories they tell you. You know, it's life changing. I mean, it really is. And so, you know, those are some of the gifts that we get by being up there. Challenging.
Even the museum volunteers, you know, that are there on a regular basis have really cool stories.
They do, because they get to. Can you imagine who they meet? I mean, the docents are. I mean, these people are. I mean, they're connected. You know, I know years past we've met a couple of astronauts. You know, it's just it's unreal.
You know, I walked into the can't remember, is it like the Boeing barn? I can't remember what they call it. It's that their old original building they have there.
Yeah, the barn. Mm-hmm.
I walked in there briefly when I was walking between the two sides of the museum, and one of the docents in there had to be in his mid-90s, and he was sitting in a walker, and he could hardly hold himself up straight. That's how kind of old he was, but he was there, and you knew he was there because he wanted to be. That's how passionate these guys are about this stuff. You know, he wasn't there because it was easy for him. So,
yeah. Well, they said Dick, he's 99. He's gonna be 100 in February. I think it was incredible. It was like he was at 25 Saturdays last year.
Yeah,
standing in front of that B-17 telling his story. And I didn't know it, but he carries in his pocket and has his entire life a piece of flak that was lodged in the protective panel that protected the pilot and co-pilot. Each one had their own, that hit right behind his head. And it would, there's a video I'll put up, and he says, yeah, my top gunner, looked down and saw it. And he says, I told me it was there. And he says, man, reach out and pull that out. So he says, I took and gave controls to the first, to the co-pilot. And he says, I reached out and pulled that thing out, wedged it out of there. And he had it in his hand. And he says, yeah, that turret gunner says, boy, that had your name on it, but thank God they spelt your name wrong. And where do you hear these stories from? And then he really shared, and every time it's the third time he's told the story on how he controlled fear, and it was really amazing. So let's go over some of the challenges. For me is, it's painful to choose 30 people when you've got probably 100 or 125 that want to go. It really is. And you've got to look at a number of things. You've got to look at the needs of the project. You got to look at, the skill sets. You got to look at fairness, who's gone before, who hasn't. So you got to look at all these different things, eligibility, all these different things, and health, ability. Are they going to be able to handle that workload as part of it? Do they work well with others? Not everybody works well with others, so that's part of it too. For Diane, Chris, Doug, and Bobby, the planes. Here's the list, guys. We did Air Force One, a 707. We worked on it and the B-29 were the heavies. That's what we had to really get in and do. It's a ton of work. Concorde jet, we had to clean it and then spray it down with bead maker and protect it, get it preserved. Boeing 727, it hadn't been cleaned since probably a couple years. I don't think we got to touch it. We didn't get to touch it last year.
You want to know something? It's probably been since 2019.
Probably. Yep. But it was filthy, and we had to clean it. And again, we decided to go ahead and lay down some protectant with bead maker because it's Boeing approved. We also did test spots on the 727 because we're going to start. We already cut the aluminum once and just did a really rough cut. Now we're going to start bringing the aluminum. That's serial number 727. We also did some test spots on the B-29 for the wings to get the wings done and so forth. The Lockheed Constellation, just an absolute jewel of an airplane, hadn't been touched in a while. It was out front, very difficult to work on. But then, D-247, number one, we worked a little bit and got to work on the serial number 747. And so we've got all these different planes. We did all the fighter jets, all the different fighter jets that are on display, everything from an F-14 Tomcat to you've got Navy Blue Angels, they're on display. And so we got to work on those. Now project sponsors, I'm gonna reach out because Chris isn't going to take and talk about this as much, but the project sponsorship of going through and figuring that out is likewise with the meal sponsorships, all the team paperwork for 30 volunteers, all the schedules, the rooms, the flights, the shuttles, the shirt design, the project manual, team assistants, team leaders, product ordering, chemicals, towels, wool and foam pads. It all comes down to Chris, Diane, Doug, and Bobby, arranging all the meals, the shuttles, the stickers, ordering the stickers, the patches, all the photography, trying to make sure that we got the right photos for the right the right marketing, all the social media. And again, take away lessons from what Sydney said is, hey, give the team leaders the marketing schedule. That was a brilliant idea. And what we used to have in years past was actually a marketing manager. That's all they did was make sure that the marketing side was taken care of. With a small team, you really can't dedicate. My schedule is just roaming and making sure that everything's safe. There's always questions. We can't do this. We can't do that. This works. Going through and testing different things. Believe it or not, some very skilled detailers. That aluminum is never the same on the B-29 Air Force One. As the weather changes, the humidity changes, the temperature changes, even though they're undercover, is that it changes constantly. And through 19 years, we figured out the little systems and processes that work and the ones that definitely don't. And so all these things coming together, it took weeks and weeks and weeks. So let's talk about you. And then we got some questions. Let's talk about you doing projects. Absolutely. Noteworthy. Listen, you got to put deposits into your community. And there's air museums all over the place. There's tanks, there's military vehicles, there's historic vehicles, there's museums, there's all kinds of things to go after. But you need to know it's going to be a lot of work, and you only have one chance to do it right. And the quality of work. They're also knowing the difference between, like, for instance, there's they believe the first production fighter jet on display in the museum. It's a cloth covered plane used in World War I. It's believed to have the first factory mounted gun on it in history. And all that is about is leaving the patina alone and just protecting it. But even what you can put on it is you've got to know. So there's a lot of things, a lot of homework that you've got to do. You got to dig into. Having the right insurance, it's a whole different level, of insurance. You've got to be prepared for that. And if you've got cheap insurance versus good insurance, because there's a big difference, you're probably going to really stumble with it, and have a hard time.
For this project, is it just an aircraft policy, or is it a little different and more unique than that?
Yeah, it is. It's underneath our, we've got our normal garage keepers, and then we've got hangars keepers for aircraft, and then there's this one. And it's an underwriting that goes into our general policy. But because of the value, I wanted to be transparent with our insurance company and let them know what we're working on. Now it's become very, I won't say easy, but especially after this one where, we went a little further than we've always done, and they're very comfortable with it. But a lot of companies aren't going to be, we're very blessed, knock on wood. We've had 2 insurance companies over the last 20 something years. Because of this, because of what level we worked on, we got to keep it going no matter. We can't give it up. And so it's pretty special. It's not your everyday. So, well, we got some questions. I'd love to go down. Good morning. Joe Kimball's on. Thanks, buddy. Good seeing you last week. Really, seriously, thanks. You already responded to Mike. Mr. Ramos, good morning. Let's see.
Lots of comments.
Yeah.
So Crisanto says he's ready to go next year.
Yeah, let's go. There you go.
They're going to let him out of Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. I'm going through. No massages this year. Yeah, that's pretty funny. There's a story behind that. If you see me at an event, come up and ask me about the because it's probably not quite PG. I mean, nothing bad happened, but it was the words that somebody used yeah. So no massage this year. Danny, again, I think next training out near in Oregon. We don't have anything. It's going to definitely be next year. We love to come up there. And so we'll do something up in Oregon next year. Keith and Sydney just had something, but I'm sure I'll be back up there at some point next year.
Yeah, they seem to do something up there at least once a year, and I know we already did something this year. So,
yeah. All the meals are fantastic. I'm sure I gained a pound or 2. That's exactly it.
Or 5 or 10.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there you go. So Romero, you're talking about the Air Museum up there. I'm telling you, go in and talk to them. It's not gonna hurt. Handy Danny, it surprised me to hear that you're having a hard time justifying a brake buster. Brake buster is one of our most popular products right now. It probably is, but it's not made for nasty wheels. I'd love to see your system and process and see, because that is just a product that, again, if they're beat on wheels and if your market has a lot of just totally just diced up wheels and it's taking major scrubbing, yeah, I can see it. But on general wheels, I've got high performance wheels. I've got old classic wheels. I'm looking at mine. The key is I don't let them get filthy, but even on the cars we use in training, some of them have never been cleaned, and we don't live in a real good area. And I'll tell you, it does a nice job. Now, one thing we'll do, a little trick we'll do, is on something that's really, really bad, we'll actually layer them. So we'll take and put on Iron Buster and scrub the wheels down, and then top it over with Brake Buster, scrub them down one more time, and hose off. That does a really nice job. And then also, of course, Brake Buster does the tires too. Does a great job on engines. Does a great job on wheel arches. And then the tires, and believe it or not, does a really nice job on raised white lettering if you've got it. Some of the cars have it again. But yeah, it's I'm surprised to hear that, because it's such a, my own experience. I'm pretty transparent with products that we think don't maybe not be up to par, but that's one that I would say it shocks me to hear that, because it just again, if the wheels are trashed, no, that's not a shock. A lot of people are I don't like using acid. I'm totally not an acid person. We took it out of our arsenal for the safety. Hydrofluoric acid's really dangerous, for people. If you're mobile and you're out using acid and you're getting on people's driveway and you're not neutralizing it, it's bad for their kids and their pets. If you're in your shop and you're using it and you're taking your shoes and walking and going home and you're taking that home to your family and your pets. So I'm not acid's a last recourse, but yeah, try that little tip I said, so I love this guy, man.
Here's a good question. What metal? Joe asked, what metal polish do we use on the old planes?
Let me see if I can get a bottle of it. I think I stole it and took it with us. Metal Bright.
Probably all the way over in the glass cabinets, but
Metal Bright is I don't think we have. I got one bottle of it. It's trashed. I don't have anything close I can get. But Metal Bright, PNS Metal Bright, is a really good general purpose. But the combination that we have to use, depending on what we're finishing, we use a lot of Rollite product. We used in one area a heavy metal polish on one area of the B29 on the I can't remember even what it was, but it's just real sensitive. And so we've got about 6 different polishes that we actually use, but our go-to is Metal Bright. That's our go-to. That's the generalized one that we use over and over. Great question though. So, all right. Well, with that, unless we have any more questions, I think we just got it. We wanted to just kind of share this with you. I know it's not an exciting podcast, but yeah, that's exactly it. Those planes do. Joe Kimmel's adding in. They get the elements from the salt water that comes over. Seattle right there. Matter of fact, there's a canal behind us that goes out to the Sound. And so it's a saltwater canal. It's pretty insane. So,
well, that brings up another point too. I know that people have said in the past, you guys are doing the same project over and over again, and you always mention, well, it's nice to have your repeat customers and all that, but the bottom line is the planes require maintenance. It's not like you just detail it once and you walk away.
No.
You got to do it over and over again, just like your customers got to redetail their cars over and over again. And these big planes specifically are in a pavilion, and it's got a big roof on it, but the walls are open. And it's pretty amazing what a year of Seattle weather can do to an airplane.
Especially clad and unclad metal, guys. You can think of bare aluminum wheels. A year without maintenance, those wheels are. Here we're talking about brake buster and how it might not work, on some wheels. Well, there's a perfect example of what's happening with these planes. I mean, they're not going around and around, but all the wheels don't have what they're exposed to either, and so, and here's the other thing. When I hear people say that, it's the same project over and over again. Hey man, sorry if your customers don't come back to you for 19 years. Other people have tried to get this project, and they've actually, in the early days after I did it, because we're not cheap. I mean, even though we volunteer guys, the museum is still into this tens of thousands of dollars. So we did the number, Evan and I, and it's probably 50 to 60,000 this year. It's a bargain for them. I'm not saying it's not, but there is people that came in back in the days when we were $250,000 that tried to come in and underbid us. And when the museum would have them, and the Air Force would have them do test watch, they couldn't perform. So it's not just that we're coming back and working on these things. It's also that we're preserving them. It's just crazy. And so,
the other thing is, sometimes I see comments like, oh, well, it's not the real Air Force One and all that. Well, it is a real Air Force One. It's no longer in service. It's a historical artifact. And unless people decide that they don't believe in preserving history anymore, it's important to do these projects to preserve that history.
Oh yeah.
Someday the current Air Force One might be a historic, artifact as well. And it'll require preserving too. But for now, like, the Air Force takes care of it, and they're not going to let anybody else near it.
I've worked on the two current ones right now, years ago, 2003, 2004. I was called in as a consultant under the Bush administration. It was pretty awesome. I will tell you, those planes aren't near as exciting as these. They've got historic value, but a lot of it we don't even know. And you know what? The 747, one of them is going to be retired out here probably pretty quickly. I'm guessing that it's going to go to a museum. I'm guessing that one of the presidents use it, probably Clinton, is going to have the first opportunity to pick it up. And it could definitely go into another museum, and it is going to have to be preserved if they care for it. The Reagan one, I worked on the Reagan one when it was first dismantled. I went down and helped them both at Norton Air Force Base when it was Norton Air Force Base. Now it's not. And then they disassembled it, rolled it down to the Reagan Museum. We helped go through. A contractor had the rights. They could have easily destroyed that aluminum forever. And so we walked through what they shouldn't be doing with it. And then we helped them learn how to polish it to the best of their ability. It's in bad need again. But again, we've got our set standards. And if the museum won't meet our standards, we're not going to work on it. It sounds crazy. That museum doesn't. Truly, there is no Air Force One unless the president's on it. They go by the tail number, So truly, in the essence, say people, oh, it's not Air Force One. It's been a plane utilized for the purpose of being in the Air Force One fleet. It was a primary plane. There's a lot of secondary ones that were there but never had presidential use. This one had a tremendous amount of presidential use, primary presidential use, a lot of historic use. And that's what I like about it, because the stories behind it. My goodness, it was on the tarmac when Kennedy got assassinated. I mean, is that something or what? And we've talked to them. We've got stories. Some I'll share with the team that I've been told. A lot of them I won't. I just won't go online and do it. And again, the glass even on the planes, is Sydney went up there. She's crazy, over glass polishing, right? and protecting it. Now it does. And so she went through, and on the B-17, she did one of the access panels that's plexi, and got it looking brand new. She did that on her own. The volunteers kind of hit her up, and you could see a twinkle in her eye, and she's like, twink, that's my specialty. And so
she did some of the interior of it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They took it completely off the plane for her, and set it down on a pad outside underneath the wing. It was pretty cool to watch it. It was pretty cool to see it, touch it, because that's the last B-17F model in the world. There is no more. And so, one of the things that people ask us too is, have we coated any of them? You got to be really careful. We can't coat the aluminum. There's one aluminum coating that we've tested on Air Force One. with the Air Force and DoD and Boeing and Museum of Flight years ago when it first came out, and it dulled down the look of it, and it didn't add that much protection. And so we really didn't, it wasn't crazy. It just didn't make it look right. As for the paint, I would love no more. We've got next year, we're going to go through and gently take and revive the paint on Air Force One. Right now, we've just been preserving it the last couple of years, but it's in need of a mild cleaning. It's a single stage, got to clean it up. I would love to get it coated, because that will take it out probably 5 years in between heavy service, so it's pretty cool. But
yep.
Well, guys, I get to go to the dentist. So, yeah, just deep cleaning, just cleaning. And but hey, I'm glad we could share this with you guys. And
you get to go to the dentist. I've got 133 emails to look at.
Yeah. There's a lot in there. I've been slowly chipping away at them too. The ones that I can take care of, I've been slowly chipping away. But well, hey, thanks everybody. Have a great day. It's always a pleasure to come to you guys, and thanks for listening in. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Have a great day, guys.
See ya.